This is the floor plan. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I'm honored to be with you today, and thank you for taking your time, your precious time. We are here today for the FemTechTalk. This is our topic of today. It's unleashing the power of future work skills. We have plenty of stuff prepared for you, but hopefully you are also curious to ask some questions, so we have some time reserved at the end for you to raise your questions, so don't be shy. But first of all, I want to get a quick impression of, at least for the people in the room here, who's here. So who's working for Siemens? Hands up. Oh, strong crowd. Who's working, studying at FAU? Okay. TH Nürnberg. Nice. So it's kind of even. Any other companies here? Like anything else that I didn't mention so far? Yeah? Nice. Great. We also have some students from school here, so thank you very much for coming and making off the time. Hope your teachers are not angry with you. Yes. So you're here now. Thank you. Why am I here? I actually have no idea. A few weeks ago, they called me and said, "Toby, do you want to host this event?" I'm like, yeah, that's not something I do on a regular basis, but of course I'm always up for new challenges. But then just in the back, in a room, I had a quick discussion with a colleague, and he said, "Well, Toby, look at you." I'm like, yeah, you casually styled jeans, sneakers, you have crazy hair. And I'm like, yeah, but why now? Why am I here? Well, you give hope to the people. And I'm like, yeah. But that's a nice thing, right? So I'm glad to be here and give hope to everybody who needs some hope. But I think there's also another nice relation. So as you can see, I'm Dr. Tobias Eismann. I studied at FAU, and I did my PhD at FAU in the field of creativity. And today I'm working for Siemens. Roughly started my career there 3 years back in time. And I'm now humbled to be able to lead a little team only dedicated to the topic of creativity. So we're trying to drive the topic of creativity within Siemens, but also beyond, as one of the most important skills of the future. Probably also touch upon this a little bit today. Enough said about myself. This is the rough agenda for the 90 minutes we're going to have together ahead. So of course we have a little bit of a warm welcome and setting the stage with Natascha, Eckert, Joachim, Hornegger. Then we have 3 beautiful keynotes given by Kathrin, Möslein, Yasmin, Weiß, and Judith, Wiese about innovators and changemakers, future mindset and future skills in the age of AI, and sustainable employability. After that, we're going to have a little Q&A, or better to say panel discussion here, followed by a Q&A, so your opportunity to ask questions that you always wanted to ask. But we are here for the Siemens Research and Innovation Ecosystem, Erlangen-Nürnberg, and who would be better to explain why we're here, what's all about this event. So please give a warm welcome to Professor Dr. Joachim Hornegger, President of FAU. Thank you. And of course, Dr. Natascha Eckert, Global Head of Siemens Research Innovation Ecosystem.
So just a very warm welcome to our today's FemTechTalk, virtually as also on site. And I think that's the new thing. This FemTechTalk already takes place for the 7th time. And the new thing is we do it on premises of the new Siemens campus Erlangen. And we have a full house. So that's super great to have you all here, to see you, to attend the meeting. And I think it shows the increasing interest in the today's topic. I think it might be also triggered not by both of us, Joachim and myself, but our outstanding speakers. So thank you, Judith, Wiese, Yasmin, Weiß, and Kathrin, Möslein, that you are taking part today, sharing insights, experiences, as kind of leading female role models in the tech economy, and that's the idea behind the FemTechTalk. So that we invite not only female, but students, young talents, PhDs who are interested to see and to learn how we work in industry, how we address also topics like the future of work, what skills are needed tomorrow. But on the other hand, we also want to learn from you. So what are your expectations from an employer such as Siemens, for example? So this is a bit the reason behind what we always want, and I think that's the idea of the new campus and the idea of also our Siemens Research and Innovation ecosystem here, Erlangen-Nürnberg, to be a kind of living lab. And what I learned is that Yasmin Weiß brought a couple of international students today, so that's great. And I also learned that our partner schools are represented with a couple of guests. This is what we want to see, have really an open, inviting space to bring people here, and with whom we could do it better than with the most innovative university in Germany?
In the world.
No. Room, there is room. You always need goals. We heard that we need hope. So the most innovative university in Germany, number 2 in Europe. So Joachim and I think I couldn't imagine a better partner than FAU to drive our ecosystem here and leverage the full innovation power of the region.
That's true, Natascha. A warm welcome also from my side. I'm representing FAU, the most innovative university in Germany, number 2 in Europe and number 14 in the world.
Oh, good.
And if you look at another ranking that showed up in summer this year, we are even ranked number 1 worldwide in terms of the SDGs, innovation and industry collaboration. And that's exactly what makes the difference in our case. There are not that many universities in the world where you have a strong link to industry, a close collaboration between research, academia, and industry like we have it here in the metropolitan region of Nuremberg. Just look at all the innovations we have done in the past. If you do online banking, for instance, I mean, you use cryptography. Cryptography relies on algebra and mathematics, and the mother of modern algebra is Emmy Noether. She studied, of course, at FAU and was the first female PhD student in mathematics in Germany, and that's also one unique contribution we have made. And there are many more. Also, if you look at the modern developments, the most efficient solar cells are produced here at FAU if you use organic material. We have one alumnus of our university who is in charge of building the most innovative electric car that is currently commercially available. And there are many more stories we can tell you. And if you look at our female researchers and the performance of our female research staff, you will also find out that many innovative ideas grew with their collaboration. An example is Professor Sylvia Budai. She is dealing and doing research on brain mechanics. How does the brain deform and why do we have these foldings and what is the reason for these developments? And these are very inspiring and interesting questions. And you come up with these questions if you deal with partners outside of the academic world, in hospitals, but also in industry. And many of our innovations and the core of our innovation power is due to the fact that we closely collaborate, for instance, with Siemens. If you read the current news in the US, you find out the biggest innovation that has happened over the past 15 to 20 years is the photon counting computer tomography system. And if you look At the patents, you will find out that the algorithms were done in 2005 to 2008 at FAU together with researchers at Siemens. And this collaboration makes the difference of our ecosystem. And I'm very happy that so many people are here today. It's not required to be an FAU alum to be successful, but it makes sense and is very important that we collaborate in our innovation ecosystem, and diversity, I think, is the key, that we get these multiple views towards a selected problem, that we get different ideas growing together and coming up with solutions not a single person can think of. And that's the strength, that we have this type of diversity, that we bring strong talents, the best talents to the metropolitan region to work with us, to work with Siemens. We want to be an attractor worldwide to work with these talents. And I have to admit, whenever I ask students, international students, what is the reason that you come over to Erlangen? Of course, I want to hear Hornegger is president and we would love to join the most innovative university. But one reason is actually the industrial environment we have and our strong collaboration partner Siemens. So we are very grateful to the collaboration, and this makes us unique, and I think it's a benefit for both sides. I hope so, Natascha.
Absolutely. They are not only here for me, so.
Microphone.
Thank you. No, and we all wish you good discussions afterwards, but first of all, good keynotes, and I know that Tobias is doing some timekeeping. So
I try my best.
Stage
Thank you very much, Joachim and Natascha. Thank you.
Enjoy the day.
Enjoy it.
Enjoy the day.
Bye-bye.
Sorry.
Thank you. So, we of course don't forget about TH Nürnberg, yeah, and of course schools and everything else that is in this ecosystem. Thank you very much for setting the stage. And we heard about the power of this ecosystem. Now we want to talk about the power of future work skills. That's our core topic of today. And for that, we have our first keynote. It's called Innovators and Change Makers. And it's given by a person. She studied computer science and business at Technical University in Munich and Ludwig Maximilians University in Munich. And in Zurich, since 2005, she holds the chair of strategic management and organization in Leipzig. She has so plenty of roles, actually. I tried to fit everything on here, but I was not able to do that. So impressive list of roles and everything she's doing. I'm always wondering how she can do that actually in the same amount of time that also I have and you have. But her topics are surrounding innovation, information systems, digitalization, but also startups and collaboration. She was involved in the Josefs laboratory, starting the Zollhof, and plenty more stuff. Today she is, since 2016, vice president at FAU, and I was able to meet her personally, and I really appreciate her authenticity and humbleness, and she's always open for new. So please give a warm welcome to Professor Dr. Kathrin Möslein.
Thank you.
The stage is yours.
Thank you, Tobias, for the warm welcome. Thank you to all of you for being here, especially from schools, from partner institutions. It's great to be here and to talk with you about future work skills. Well, I thought when talking about future work skills, I best talk about Friedrich-Alexander-Universität, Erlangen-Nürnberg, our FAU. Well, I also learned that the worst thing that you can do at FAU is talking after the president. So apologies if I'm the most boring one, he's the most entertaining one, and that's how we work together and are a great team. FAU, and that's important, is not just some big, public, boring university somewhere in Germany. It's especially the second largest employer in the whole region. And you know this region, with all those big companies like Adidas and. But FAU, we were surprised, is the second largest employer. First one is for sure Siemens, and we cooperate a lot. Above all, and you have heard that, FAU is a real driver of innovation, especially by educating a constant stream of innovators and change makers. We could even say we produce a constant stream of innovators and change makers. And that's where the link is to the future work skills. And you have already heard it. This year, we finally even made it to the top 1 in the world in innovation. And yes, you all know whenever you hear about rankings, every institution picks a ranking where they are on top. But as my field is innovation, and we are number 1 in the world in innovation in the Times Higher Education Impact Ranking for Industry and Innovation, apologies that I have to mention it because we are so super proud. And I think it also gives us a good position to talk about future work skills. What you see here is FAU's motto and mission, moving knowledge. Now you might say, well, that's a bit boring. Aren't all academics constantly moving knowledge on their desks and from the left to the right and back? Well, yes, it's true, but I would also say no. Because higher education institutions are also very good in building knowledge silos, in protecting knowledge, in codifying knowledge, fixing knowledge, rather than sharing and opening it up. So we have journals, and the journals have a defined focus where you can publish. We have disciplines and excellent clusters and whatever, it's all well-defined. And among researchers, there's always a joke about referee number 2 or reviewer number 2. It's usually the reviewer who would tell you that your paper is nice, but it doesn't fit the journal. So you see, there are those silos. By specializing, professionalizing, strengthening institutional profiles, we all build boundaries around our organizations. That's sometimes good, but it also comes at a price. So let's for a moment all lean back and just imagine for a moment your first day at school, your first day at the university, your first day at work. On day 1, we are usually still totally curious and excited. We are open-minded. And we are ambitious. And what happens then on day 1? At work, we usually get told what our field, our task, our job is, and we learn about the boundaries of our playground. In the university, you start in your study program, which is great. But it's your study program, and you know in which program you are, in which semester you are, in which box you fit, what is expected from you, what you have to deliver. This helps you. It helps you to achieve your goals. It helps you to move forward. And you might not end up in a silo, but I would say your study program is very much like a knowledge spaghetti. It's a knowledge spaghetti on a big plate with our 260 study programs, which are all knowledge spaghettis, and you are just in one. So just imagine what that means. Outside your knowledge spaghetti, so there's so much more happening. And all the other spaghettis might also be interesting. So in industry and academia equally, you will have to work hard to keep your curiosity and courage, to keep your open-mindedness, to keep your ambition. Because institutions somehow have to set boundaries. And we as an institution, we at FAU, work hard on the same. So the more our universities are encouraged to focus, to build a profile, to work in competition with others, to have programs accredited, to have disciplines ranked on a global scale, the more we have also to counterbalance. We have to open up in order to allow for the skills that are important for the future. Why? You know it. Because our overarching ambition is innovation. Because innovation is a multiplayer game, not a single player something. it always needs a whole ecosystem to come up with the innovations that are our future, the innovations needed for our country, for our society. So look at this quick snapshot of our innovation ecosystem and fill in your own organization in one of the empty spots, because not everything is filled, not everything is depicted, but all the educational institutions, the universities, our partners, all our crazy and growing startups, they all belong to that picture. That is the innovation ecosystem, and it's this ecosystem that makes FAU #1 in innovation worldwide. But it's also FAU that fuels this ecosystem with a constant stream of innovators and change makers. And that's how we interact. Look at all those bubbles. They all show separate, strong institutions with their own priorities, their own strategies, their own focus, separated by organizational boundaries. In an innovation ecosystem like ours, innovations come from identifying those boundaries and bridging across boundaries. Bridging across organizations, across branches, across stakeholder groups, across disciplines, across fields. So we have constantly to build those crazy bridges in order to fuel innovation. As we can say, it's by bridging boundaries that innovation grows. And now, if you ask, hey, the topic is future work skills, what the hell are the future work skills? I would say the top skills we need for innovation and for an innovation ecosystems are more or less the good old ones. It's curiosity, open-mindedness, and ambition. And if these three come together, and if these three are not cut down by boundaries, then they really help you. These skills in our education systems, even already in schools, are sometimes really stopped, hindered, moved away, over. So we are not very good at provide those skills and support those skills in our normal organizational logic. Because in our organizations, you know it already, we are far too busy delineating our fields, defining our playground, managing, assessing, accrediting our achievements. That's why I would like to, well, just one thing. We're not good at fostering those three, and still we know that they are the biggest single drivers of innovation. Curiosity, that has to be constantly encouraged. Open-mindedness, that has to be constantly challenged. And ambition, that has to be constantly nurtured. And FAU, in the past years, has started quite a number of initiatives and set up methods where we try to counterbalance the dominant logic of the higher education landscape and higher education system. And I would like to give 3 examples. Number 1, our FAU Digital Tech Academy. That's a crazy cool initiative and program. It's totally against the dominant logic of our study programs. It's only for the crazy ones among our students. It's for those who apply to an demanding innovation program, a program that offers hard work and gives 0 credits, rule number 1. A program that invites applications, receives hundreds and hundreds of applications, and rejects almost everybody because it only accepts 25 people to a cohort. That's rule number 2. So you work like crazy, you don't get credits, but you get superior support. And finally, and that's also a core ingredient, this program mixes students across all levels, bachelor, master, PhD, and all disciplines across our full spectrum university. That's totally against the rules of Bologna and everything that would be defined as quality in higher education. But that's a really good recipe. The spirit of the Digital Tech Fellows is incredible. And there's nothing more challenging, I would say, in our university than working with the Digital Tech Fellows. A really good group, super curious, open-minded, and highly ambitious students. Let me give a second example. Our FAU global programs. Well, you see on the picture, the first cohort, we started off in Silicon Valley, and I had the chance to participate in that first cohort. A global program that's usually 5 to 10 days, where we work with top partners worldwide. And again, it's a mixer. No ranks, no titles, total mixer, but not just students. Here we get even more crazy. We mix not just students of all levels and all disciplines, we mix them with staff members of higher education institutions, with people from industry, with alumni, researchers and professors. Even former deans have to apply and go through the selection process. And even if they call the president and ask, what can I do in order to get in? They have to run through the selection process and are treated like everyone else. It's simply the best learning experience because you bridge boundaries. You regain curiosity, open-mindedness, and ambition. As you see, we started in Silicon Valley, Shenzhen, but meanwhile, we also do it across Europe. Just this weekend, I came back from Bucharest, where I spent 5 days with 25 innovators from FAU and more than 300 people from other European innovation ecosystems. It was truly mind-blowing, really cool. And I must admit, I took a flight, but the team decided to go by train to have an even better experience. 27 hours on a train to go to Bucharest, 27 hours to go back. You can ask them, some of them are in the room. I think they had the even better experience. But I have to watch the time, otherwise Tobias gets nervous. So let's finally look at the third example. Because we have built and we keep building innovation platforms. Tobias mentioned them already in the beginning, and there are some obvious ones. You know the Medical Valley, a great platform for digital health innovation, or the Energie Campus, where energy markets and energy systems find their innovations. Or the Zollhof, Germany's fastest growing tech incubator, where students from TH Nürnberg, from FAU, from other institutions, they all work together with companies on their startups and grow fast. But we also have the LZE, the Leistungszentrum here in Erlangen, where we mainly work on business-to-business innovations with people from Fraunhofer and industry. And it was also mentioned we already have Joseph's, an open innovation laboratory in the city center of Nuremberg. So if you come to Augustinerhof, you go to Joseph's. This is a place where we mainly work on business-to-consumer innovations with users and citizens, everyone who comes through the door of a shop, because those people have, again, new ideas and perspectives to contribute to innovations. These 3 examples, the FAU Digital Tech Academy, the FAU Global Programs, and our FAU Innovation Platforms are true boosters for the innovation ecosystem, and I would argue, you can imagine, they are boosters for curiosity, open-mindedness, and ambition for everyone who decides to join and contributes. And this is why I invite all of you. I invite everyone in our research and innovation ecosystem between Siemens and FAU to contribute, to help moving knowledge, and to make the innovations happen that we all want to see, and to break the boundaries, to bridge across the boundaries that we see every day in our work, in our daily routines, in our processes, in organizations. Keep in mind, they are necessary for many goals, but as innovators, we constantly have to break the rules and bridge the boundaries. Thank you very much.
Woo. Thank you. Can you stay with me for one quick question? Thank you very much for this impressive insight into what FAU is doing beyond the curriculum, which we probably typically know. But just one quick question. So what do you do personally to keep up your very personal curiosity, your ambition? Probably also something you did before those formats were already there for your career. Any personal tip you can share with the people here?
Well, as you already mentioned, I'm involved in building up some of the platforms, but the single most important factor is working with students, not only the ones in my very own knowledge spaghetti, Wirtschaftsinformatik, but across knowledge spaghettis. So also in my normal courses, now in winter term, I have again my favorite course, Innovation and Leadership. I think I have now students from 12 different programs. It's a formal course of my program, but we opened it up. Then it takes years and years of word of mouth. Mm-hmm. And suddenly you have a crazy crowd of people and you notice it's really helpful to keep up the innovation spirit.
Thank you for sharing
Thank
this.
You.
Big applause for Kathrin Möslein. Thank you very much. Number one. Now we'll talk about number two. This keynote is about future mindset and the future skills in the age of AI, artificial intelligence. This keynote is given by a person, she studied international management in Nizza. So for the get-together afterwards, a nice segue to start a question. Say, hey, what are the best Aperol Spritz spots in Nizza? Probably she can share later. She's the expert in future skills. That's what she's doing. She's an author of plenty of books. She has multiple supervisory board memberships, also this impressive list I was not able to put all in here. She founded a startup called Yoloa, so probably she will also share a little bit about that journey and how that probably also kept her very curious throughout her life. She is researching how AI will impact our working world. I think something we all are worrying about, or at least thinking about. So the hype about ChatGPT, how is that changing our world, our day-to-day world, but also our jobs, basically? Is it taking away our jobs? Is it really creative? Is it not? Today, she is also Prof at TH Nürnberg. So please give a warm welcome applause to Professor Dr. Yasmin Weiß.
Wow, it's good to be here again. It's actually my first lecture after parental leave, and I'm very happy to be here. And to all of my students, please practice active listening. So when we go back by bus later, I'd like to know from each and every one of you what you have learned. So at least one key message you took away from today. Not necessarily from me, but from all speakers. I'd like to talk about a topic, future mindset and future skills in the age of AI. As Toby has mentioned, this is my research focus, and it's totally relevant for all of you, for all of us. So, the age of AI has just begun, and we live in an exciting phase of technology, and use the time during your studies to prepare yourself for working together with artificial intelligence. The easiest way, and I'm quoting Jaron Lanier, he said the easiest way to misunderstand a new technology, to mismanage a new technology, is to misunderstand it. So all of us need to understand how we can bring our human intelligence together with artificial intelligence, and in the ideal case form an augmented intelligence with which we can solve problems better, work more efficiently, work more effectively. And Thomas Saueressig, board member of SAP, I just was sitting on a panel with him a couple of weeks ago, and he said the sentence, in 5 years from now, AI will be embedded in everything. So everyone will need to use AI, so everyone needs to understand how to apply AI. And we were having a discussion on the bus when we got here, so my students and I were having a discussion. I told them I will not hire a person, a young person, a digital native, who hasn't played around with AI tools, who doesn't bring AI application skills to the employer. Because this is what I expect from everyone, and especially from young talents who are digital natives. And just being a digital native doesn't necessarily mean that you're digitally competent. You have to work on that. You have to invest, and the best time to invest in your digital skills is actually now and also during your studies. I talk a lot at conferences, and I get this question, or I hear this question a lot. What creates security in times of insecurity? Because we have constant change, we have huge change, not only from technology. And this is a very relevant question, an important question, and I'd like to answer with a metaphor. You all see this bird sitting here on the branch, and do you think, hands up, that this bird is afraid that the branch on which it's sitting could possibly break in the future? What do you think? Do you think the bird is afraid? No. And why isn't the bird afraid? Why is it not afraid? Oh, Robin, you're sitting in front of me, so you have to answer. Is the bird afraid?
I don't think so.
And why not?
Because I think, first of all, he can fly.
Yeah.
And second, I don't think he even recognizes the branch that he can break.
Yeah, I especially like the first part of your answer, so I will repeat that. I agree with you that the bird is not afraid that the branch could possibly break, because it derives its feeling of security, not from its ability, not from the stability of the branch, but from its ability to fly. And this is what you need to understand. It's not about job security anymore. The job market is changing, requirements are changing, the needed skills are changing, and the jobs of the present won't be the jobs of the future. So rely on your ability to fly. It's about skill security, it's not about job security. So learn how to fly. And this is a skills topic, but this is also a mindset topic. You need to be brave, you need to be curious, as my colleague just has said, you need to be open-minded, and you need to be interested in getting to know future branches. And you need to have the imagination that the branch of the future is maybe not a branch anymore. Maybe it's something totally different. And this is the mindset we need, and especially in a future which is changing so fast. Before I will talk about future skills in the age of AI, I have another topic, a mindset topic, and we need to talk about. In Germany, we deliver quality made in Germany, and we export this to other countries, and this has made our economy very successful. And quality made in Germany means perfection. But in addition to aiming for perfection, we also need a beginner's mindset. And what do I mean by a beginner's mindset? It must be cool to be a total beginner. But we do not have this culture of being and enjoying to be a total beginner in our society, and because we don't have it in our society, we don't have it in our workforces. I'll give you an example. I'm from Munich, and the next ski slope is maybe 35 minutes away from the door. And how are young kids already socialized? When they go on, I say the German word now, Skilager, in their teenager years, the cool kids are the ones who ski perfectly, who've done it for many, many years, who have trained there to deliver an excellent performance. They are the cool kids. The cool kids are not the ones who stand on their skis for the first time, who fall, who ask stupid questions, who don't look very elegant, who are obviously total beginners. And young children begin to realize it's pretty uncool to be a beginner. And with this in mind, they, join companies who say we need lifelong learners. Please be a total beginner in blockchain technology, quantum computing, artificial intelligence, and somehow we are afraid to show ourselves as total beginners. It must be cool to be a beginner. It must be as cool as being someone who is an expert on something. We need both. A mindset which strives for perfection, but also a beginner's mindset, because new technologies are relevant for all of us. We all need to be beginners. So this mindset brings me to the question, what are the most important skills of the future? I started my career in this consulting industry, which you might recognize here, and I'd like to draw your attention to two quadrants here. Basically, we need to have a strategic view on the labor market, which skills will be needed in the future. And in the future means in 2030, because afterwards, it's getting very unclear what the most important skills are. But ask yourself the question, and there are a lot of studies who reveal that. I can, for example, recommend a study. It's called Which Skills Are Needed in Germany from McKinsey and Stifterverband. It gives you a very good overview with which skills will become more relevant in the next 5 years. And that's my personal recommendation, focus on those skills. And at the same time, have a look, where is scarcity on the labor market? And if you bring these two dimensions together, I call them the future hot skills. Chances are huge, because employers, the German economy needs people, talents, who have those future hot skills. And especially, and also, lifelong learning also is not just about what students learn at university. Everyone who's already in the workforce needs to acquire those future hot skills. So what are these skills? Expertise or application knowledge in artificial intelligence, data analytics, IT and cybersecurity, cloud computing, you name it. You don't need to be an expert, but you need to understand how we work with this technology, what this technology is all about, and how to apply it. So it's not rocket science to learn how to apply the new AI tools. Just do it. Just practice every day and gain experiences. But future hot skills are not, isolated. You need to combine it with, and this is the most, with social skills. Social skills are so relevant because they differentiate us as humans from technology, which is getting smarter every day. Strengthen your social skills. And your time at university, your time during your studies is an excellent time to practice your social skills and combine it with self-competencies such as self-reflection, understanding that you own your career, understanding that you are responsible for learning the right things at the right time. And of course, meta-competencies. Sorry, I forgot that. Meta-competencies are very important. For example, the ability to learn how to learn effectively and efficiently. All my students in my class will learn that. That will be a focus in our lecture this semester. Learn how to solve complex problems. Get resilient. Resilience is not a trait. Resilience is a skill. And we have perfect conditions to train those meta-competencies at the moment because we have the perfect storm. I'll come to an end, but this is actually the most important message I'll give to you. How are we going to work with artificial intelligence in the future? Actually, everyone will get those slides, and if you are my students, that's part of your script. You will I will test that. You need to learn that. So how we'll use AI in the future? 3 different functions. We will use AI as co-creator. I'm sure a lot of people of you have already tested that, how you generate texts, visuals, even music. We will use AI as a consultant to better understand data and use AI as a virtual co-pilot. For example, this session is recorded. After that, AI can write an executive summary and translate it into more than 20 different languages, a typical co-pilot function. And the aim behind using AI in our daily lives is enhancing our creativity, Toby, your topic, enhancing our productivity and our problem-solving capacity. And at the end of my talk, I'd like to invite you to ask yourself this question. This is a little homework, but it's really helpful. Imagine your future self in the year 2030 and ask yourself the following question. For which skills will your future self be grateful that you start to learn them today in 2023? Please start today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Can you stay with me for a quick question? One quick question. Thank you very much, Yasmin, for those insights and sharing the perspective of the future skills and what you do. Just a quick question that is interesting for me, and I guess probably also for you guys here. You were talking about this beginner's mindset, or that you always have to be a beginner, and it should be okay to be a beginner, right? Do you have anything that you are a beginner right now in? Anything you started to do the very first time that was also probably uncomfortable for you, but anything you put yourself into the shoes of a beginner and share with us?
Well, I'm totally comfortable with being uncomfortable. I've reserved in my calendar every day 30 minutes for testing new AI tools, and I'm a beginner every day. But I use those tools with what I call intellectual playfulness. I just play around, and I have an ecosystem of experts which I can, whom I can turn to and ask questions. And I'm a total beginner every time, and sometimes the questions are a little bit, sound naive, but I'm getting better and better, feeling comfortable with that.
Thank you for sharing. I think that's a nice hint for you guys. So put in a calendar meeting, basically half an hour, block that, and do a ritual. Make a ritual out of it, right?
Play around.
And play around. Thank you very much. Warm thank you for Yasmin Weiß. Enough energy left? Number 3. Yasmin already delivered probably a nice segue. She was talking about job security and skill security, that it's no longer about job security, but more about skill security. And the next topic is talking about this sustainable employability, basically. And she studied an MBA in Rotterdam. She worked for Mars in Brussels and United States. For those guys who don't know what Mars is, it's M&M's, it's Snickers. So I'm really curious how that is differing the snack options probably in the company right now to how it was at Mars. Hopefully she's going to share that as well. She also worked for DSM in Netherlands. It's basically a chemical production company doing plenty of different stuffs. And she says about herself, she's a people person. What does it mean? She's saying that it's especially important that we look into the people. We're talking about learning, about unlearning. We're supposed to leverage the power of diversity, and that is, in the end, our key for a successful future. It's the people, basically, of a company. A nice coincidence, because she's responsible for that at Siemens, and she is able to combine, and that's also that someone shared with me, she is able to combine sustainability and the people perspective. And that actually unleashes the power for the future, because especially all people inside of Siemens need to look into the topic of sustainability. That's nothing we can give down from top down and say, now we are sustainable. No, everybody has to bring in his or her ideas to make the future more sustainable. Today, she's Chief People and Sustainability Officer, member of the Managing Board at Siemens. Please welcome Judith Wiese.
everyone? Are you fast asleep? No? No? Can I hear some? Can I hear from you? Where's the energy in this room? Come on. Now, I think if we were a panel, we would be utterly boring because I think we're in violent agreement on most anything. So I think it's preferable to have us as 3 consecutive keynote speakers, actually, rather than debating when we're actually not debating. So I heard a lot of things that put into the company context are actually exactly how we talk about things as well. And if I go to the concept of sustainable employability, there's really 2 things that it boils down to, and you've heard them already. One is resilience, and that's how we are able to deal with change, and whether we deal with change positively, whether we embrace it, whether we're able to cope with it. And the second one is whether we have the relevant skills today and tomorrow. Now, if that is combined in a person, then we're probably employable for the rest of our lives. And we will have to do something about that every so often because it's not static. If you're resilient and relevant as a business, you're highly competitive. And as a nation, you can secure the spot where Germany still is today, which is number 4. But these headlines are not exactly what we're reading today, is it? So, it's important for people, it's important for enterprises, it's important for nations. So I think these concepts apply regardless. And what has made this nation great and successful in the world, because we simply do not have the population to actually be successful in what we're selling in our own market. We rely on exports. That is what made us great. Export of technology that people created, companies created, great ecosystems in the country created. That is what makes us successful. Now, hands up, who has all the confidence that we're going to stay there? 4th in the world. Oops. A few more. Undecided yet. Okay. This is serious, actually, and so therefore I totally get where you're coming from and why your hand kept down, because I think this is in danger if we're not getting the wake-up call and the memo in time. But I think it is perfectly possible. It is perfectly possible to be that nation, to remain that nation again, that has all those capabilities, the creativity, the technology, the innovation, and the people who are creating that. Sometimes we talk about technology and innovation as if it comes out of thin air, right? As if the world produces that without us. And of course, it is the people that this nation has made great and that Siemens has built its success upon. So we've already heard the notion of the ecosystem a number of times today, so I actually want to just give confirmation to what you've heard from a Siemens perspective. There's almost 40,000 people that Siemens employs in this wider region, and this is no coincidence. And we've just announced another 500 million investment for Siemens in the campus Erlangen. And why is that? Because of everything that you've heard before. There is a really well-functioning ecosystem here in terms of that nexus of where we have brilliant minds, where universities have brilliant minds. We've got research institutions, we've got partners, customers, suppliers here. So we can create an industrial ecosystem like nowhere else in Germany. Munich is certainly another spot, but I think here is a real sweet spot in terms of what we can do. And that's why rightly investment has gone here and why we're gathered in this room together. Because we need that. We need that open-mindedness. We need that curiosity. We need that beginner's mindset. We refer to it as growth mindset, so that we can come together and create things that will make a difference. Now, I'll talk around this slide a little bit to say, why is this important for a nation? Why is this important for an enterprise? The state of digitalization is a bit dire in this country if I compare it to other places. And this is important because it is very symbolic of where we are and where we are not. So this country needs a booster of digitalization and debureaucratization very, very quickly so that innovation can spur and innovation can really be commercialized. And that's another important dimension really quickly, that we are able to tackle with digitalization, with digital products, also some of the world's biggest challenges, as we are trying to do in Siemens, and many of you are working on that one way or another, I am sure. Climate change, decarbonization, needs digitalization, needs data. Demographic change, we're going to lose 15% of the workforce in the next 7 to 10 years. Needs automation, needs digitalization. Globalization, the conflicts that we see around the world, the resiliency or lack of supply chains that have been exposed during COVID, needs digitalization and brings and allows us to do nearshoring again. Circular economies are built on digitalization and data. All these things are the reasons for why it's not just a nuisance that I can't do my business with the city of Erlangen or the city of Munich as an inhabitant, but why it is really important that we think about this in much larger terms. We need digitalization as an enterprise. We need digitalization as a nation to be competitive again. And we as Siemens have a huge role to play here. So therefore, whatever disruption digitalization brings for how people work today, how people live today, we're selling that. We're selling that good stuff. But it also means that we need to disrupt ourselves first. Our people need to know this first, because otherwise we cannot make a product of it. So that's a task that we have as an enterprise. Now, the second one is leverage the full potential that this nation has in terms of all its talents. And given this room, of course, there's a gender component to that. Absolutely. 73% is the employment quota for women in Germany. That's not good enough. Yeah, well, I think we're number 7 in Europe with that. We're number 15 when it comes to working time, working hours. The rest of the world works on average 300 hours more than we do. So we need to make sure that we're either super productive and or get more people into work. That goes for all areas of talents and ability as well. It might need us to rethink how generational models work. Is it really right that huge nations are led by gentlemen who are approaching or who are long beyond the regular retirement age, but here we're still thinking that learning stops or careers stop at the age of, 55 or 60. We want to challenge that. We want to challenge some of those conventional wisdoms that we grew accustomed to. They may not serve us well anymore, and they may not serve the people well. They may not serve the people well either. And then as a country, of course, we need to debate the question of, is what we have in this country enough, or do we also need qualified labor moving in? And what does that require? What does that look like in a country where we're debating how welcoming we are when it comes to that? Now, I would like to talk a little bit about adoption of digital and green skills in education and lifelong learning, because this is obviously where we have been able to do quite a bit, and we're hoping to do even more through the ecosystem and through partnering. The way that we do this at Siemens, and we've got a few people in the room who know very well what I'm talking about, because we've built this with their excellent help. Of course, we are one of the big, not only employers, but people who offer vocational training, apprenticeships, dual study programs, and we continue to develop them through the lens of digital and green as well. We do cooperations with various institutions, and the FAU is one of them. We've just launched our first sustainability MBA with the FAU, and we are sending people from Siemens, obviously, but it's also open to other partners. And like digitalization, I think the green skills transcend functions and business units as well. Initially, I think everybody thought that you can contain that in some sort of a department, but of course, with digitalization as well as with AI, we learn that very quickly this will go anywhere. And so also the green skills is something that all of us need to learn and need to embrace. And this is true for us as a nation as well. And this is where it gets interesting, because it needs all of those, seemingly high-end technological skills like AI, but it also needs the people who actually screw on PV onto roofs and boilers in the machine room. And lifelong learning is probably the one that I am most passionate about, and goes back to everything that we've heard before today, because we think sometimes that we're done when we get out of school. If you thought that you're done by the time you've earned your degree, wrong. Wrong. At least I hope you know that. This is a muscle that we need to train. It's a muscle that we need to train. And the more that you work in a field of high tech, the shorter is the shelf life of knowledge. It's around about probably 5 years, in which you need to significantly learn, relearn, and unlearn things as well. And so therefore, as we've heard it before, there is a really important skill that very often is neglected, at least if you've grown up through the German school system, and that is learning to learn. Do we actually get learning strategies on the way? And do we actually experience the joy of that as well? Or is it just the red pen that comes with going through school and the educational system? And we need that. We need people who have that beginner's mindset, who have that growth mindset, and who dare to try again and embark on those new journeys. And as a company, this is exactly what we are trying to support culturally, but also with the kind of virtuous circle that we're trying to depict here. Because, of course, people also say, help me understand what it is that I need to learn. So we have some methodologies as to how we look at that together with functions, with sites, with business units, and we call that next work. And we're trying to figure out together what is roughly needed in the next 3 to 5 years. And then we translate that into skills profiles for people to learn. And, of course, a lot of our learning is still conventional learning, particularly on the shop floor, where we try to bring learning as close to the people as possible. But of course, a lot of it has gone digital, and therefore has helped us to democratize access to learning as well, and to do it very differently, to do the little nuggets for when you have time and energy to do it. And that's our virtuous circle in Siemens, and I think that's the virtuous circle that we need as a nation as well, to remain a technology leader in digital, in green, you name it. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you very much. One quick question before we go over to the panel discussion. Or first of all, thank you very much. I think in the room, silent, so I think you created this sense of urgency and awareness for this very important topic, but also made me a little bit more proud to be able to work for Siemens, because you said like we are the change makers, so we are selling that stuff, right? And we are the driver of this development. But of course we need you. We need the whole ecosystem, the whole Siemens research ecosystem, Erlangen-Nuremberg, right? But I hope that's fine, but I need to ask that question. How is the snack option different from Mars to Siemens?
Oh.
I don't know if you're
Very
allowed
different.
to tell me, but
Very, very different, because I grew up with, easy access to all of the Mars products, so you could just snack along the way.
okay. Siemens is rather focusing on apples and healthy stuff, right?
As you should, I suppose. Yeah. But there is a little indulgence every now and then. So no. We keep a little stash in my office of.
Thank you.
Of good.
Thank you
old
for
Mars
sharing.
products.
Another warm applause, please, for Judith Wiese. You can stay if you want, then take
Yes.
a seat here. Yeah. Now it's time for number 3. Or number 4, basically. So we heard 3 different keynotes. Now we're transition into the hopefully not utterly boring panel discussion, because we're anyways all aligned in this topic. But please welcome again Yasmin Weiß and Kathrin Möslein. Please, take a seat. All right. So it's also my first time actually to lead a panel discussion, so I'm feeling the full uncomfortableness of a beginner now. So please, ladies and gentlemen in the room, help me. If I do anything wrong, just shout in, say, hey, Toby, stop that. All right. I would like to start with, it's not really a question, it's just setting the stage. Judith, you were talking about sustainability, sustainable employability, basically. And that is referring to how it's basically changing the concept from job security, basically, right, to what's now. Could you just elaborate a little bit more again on that to set the stage? What's your perspective on that?
I mean, you've done it beautifully with your depiction of the bird. For me, the word job security just gives false associations in terms of what the world really is today. The world will change. Jobs will change, and job security might give the false impression that you can halt change, you can delay it, you can protect something from it. And of course, that is not a very enabling nor realistic scenario. So I think to your point about the bird, it's about giving people wings. And that requires a grown-up conversation, I think, also in an enterprise like ours, in terms of, what are we willing to give, both sides. It takes energy, dedication from people, and it takes some guidance, infrastructure, and psychological safety on our side to be able to do that. But then it's a far more empowering conversation than the feeling of, we'll keep everything same for as long as possible.
Yeah. Kathrin, probably you want to add the research or university perspective. So, I mean, obviously, we're sitting here because we're in a Siemens research innovation ecosystem, but it's not just Siemens. I think you pictured like a state or like a situation where we need to transition into the future, but Siemens and the company is not able to do it alone, right? You want to add on that and bring in the perspective from your side in the university?
Well, I was just thinking job security, that sounds so boring. I prefer talking about innovation and entrepreneurship and everything, but I should admit I'm a Bavarian civil servant. So I have my job for a lifetime, which is a great platform on which to innovate. I never have to worry about that anybody would expect anything from me, because professor is the best job on this whole planet, where you can innovate for a lifetime. You get the freedom to innovate from a secure platform. And I think you were mentioning it when you said about the psychological safety. And again, it's maybe a question of how can we balance to give people the safety, the security, to have the platform from which to innovate and be super flexible and enthusiastic and not count hours but results and keep being curious, open-minded and ambitious.
Yeah, I think what everybody is actually pretty curious about is how do we do it pretty concrete, right? You were mentioning some of the formats you basically developed, already applying or using in work basically. Is there anything in your mind that is pretty fuzzy, probably looking into the future? Is that border between a company like Siemens and the universities, is that dissolving even more? Is there like a closer collaboration happening? Any more formats coming up together? Anything looking into the future?
Well, I had the great pleasure and honor as a postdoc in Munich to be involved in setting up the very first center of knowledge interchange, it was called at that time, between the university and Siemens and the university. And so I think we constantly try to bridge those boundaries, but those boundaries have a reason to exist. And we have to accept that as a given. Yes, we have to know where Siemens starts and where Siemens ends and where FAU starts and ends, but still we can collaborate on a daily basis when we just are aware of the fact that bridging, there's a value in bridging. There's a value in cooperation. Or you said co-create, co-design, have also technology as a co-pilot. Also this boundary we will have to bridge. And this gives me a nice way to give a little provocation to Tobias. We were roommates on the same floor at FAU for some time, so apologies for that. But at FAU, when we were first discussing what really matters, is it curiosity or is it creativity or is it both? And now I play with AI. And I notice my ChatGPT is even more creative than I am. That's cool. So, but my ChatGPT has never been curious. My ChatGPT has never been open-minded, but the answers are usually quite, you can anticipate them somehow because they are based on earlier knowledge. And it's also not too ambitious. It constantly apologizes, and I start to complain about don't be so polite all the time. I want to have a cool answer. So I think it's a new boundary we have to learn to work with and to cooperate across. But at the moment, I enjoy really fighting with AI, and that's a nice, maybe something to spend the half hour fighting with ChatGPT.
So I think, ChatGPT or AI is probably like being in the future like another teammate, probably. I don't know if that's like evolving into that direction. You, Yasmin, you're doing a lot of research in that field. So we're talking about on a system level view, like overall we need to do that, and it's very complex, and then bridging the gap basically. But coming back to the individual human being, right? And the perspective of AI, you were mentioning, and I like that actually, bringing in rituals in your daily life, saying, okay, I have half an hour today in the morning, and I look into a new AI tool, and that's what I do every week. Do you have anything else? Because I think a lot of curious people sitting out here. Anything else you have in mind to tell to the people that's something pretty concrete you can do to prepare for that? Anything you do with your students, for example? I don't know.
Yeah, two things. Before I talk about something very concrete, I'd like to say something inconcrete.
Thank you for the disclaimer.
I think we need to strengthen two different kind of skills, all of us. One skill is the ability, of course, to apply new technology, and the other skill is to ask yourself the question, what differentiates me as a human from a technology which is getting smarter every day? So both skills are so important, and so train your empathy, train to ask, to challenge yourself to ask questions which have never been asked before, because everything else ChatGPT can answer or other AI tools. So think about what differentiates us as humans from technology. This is important. What can you do concretely? What I do is I'm a big fan of personal networks, and of course you need to invest time and resources and effort to to take care of your personal networks, but I have an ecosystem for learning. So I am in touch with experts, technology experts, who have deeper knowledge than I have and who are specialized. So I don't need, as Yasmin, I don't necessarily need to test every single AI tool, but I know whom I can turn to and ask those questions. And I have, a matrix of different experts, and I ask them. And, we have this HR question a lot. What is your biggest strength? And my biggest strength is to ask for support, to ask questions, to show myself as a beginner and ask my personal network.
I like that. Anybody else in the room who has such a network of people who you typically go for, like asking things? Anybody? Hands up. 1, 2. Oh yeah, nice. Yeah.
And
Beautiful.
this network should be diverse to what you already know. No echo chamber, but people who challenge you, people who disagree with you, people who are honest to say politely, hopefully, to say that you are wrong.
Yeah, and I also liked what you said about, like, look what an AI or a machine cannot do, the human side, basically, right? But we're gonna talk about that later as well. Coming back to another little notion, it's quite similar topic basically, but you were also talking about learning, unlearning, Judith. So can you just give a glimpse of what is meant by that? I mean, if we talk about learning new abilities, is there anything we need to unlearn? How do we do that?
Yeah, or at least to complement. And I'm going to go where you've already been. A lot of how careers in the past were built and how people were recognized, promoted, got a pat on the back for is experience and knowledge. And of course, all of that, in a way, is the past and not the future. And it is, to this very date, important. So this will never go away, but it needs to be complemented with something else. And in the future, where technology, AI, will probably have the answers much quicker than we do, and sourced from a much broader pool, it probably is the ability to ask the right questions, connect the dots, collaborate, find the new and the different, rather than the trodden path. So I think it's that level of ambidexterity and complementing where we are today with what is important going forward. That I would say, does that mean unlearning partially? Yeah, but certainly it means embracing something very different, and that might feel very uncomfortable to begin with.
Yeah, I think that's also a nice segue towards what I'm passionate about, creativity, because there it's especially about leaving old patterns. Things you've done that way, you need to do it in a different way if you want to be creative, if you want to do something new, create something new, right? But what's the challenge about that? It's ambiguity, right? It's uncertainty. It's not really comfortable when we do something new, when we go into a new direction. And I came across this when I looked up about your background, Yasmin. You were mentioning about, or you were posting on LinkedIn something about all the different competencies and meta competencies. And I'm just curious to hear your perspective on this. How do we become better in coping with ambiguity? As an individual, as a team, probably?
Very good question. Well, the thing is, there are skills which we learn very well in the classroom or at university, and then there are skills where we need perfect training conditions and dealing with ambiguity, dealing with uncertainty, strengthening your resilience. We have the perfect training conditions at the moment because you train those skills in a storm. And we have multi-crisis, we have a perfect storm at the moment. So get comfortably afraid. This is actually what I've learned from, I had the privilege to meet Michelle Obama, the former First Lady, 2 weeks ago in Munich. And her advice to us, who hopefully shape the future, she said, get comfortably afraid. Because then you're not in love with the status quo. You are in your growth zone. You want to, strive for something which is better in the future, and you you need to take a risk, and learning something new, do things differently, challenging the status quo is always related with a personal risk, because you could, that's a path where no one has been before, and get curious, be brave enough to shape this path and walk this path.
May I add two things?
Yes, please.
So I think one of the things at a personal level, and we've done a lot of that during COVID from a slightly different perspective, but I think it nevertheless applies, is do we understand our own trigger points? Mm-hmm. Yeah? So do we understand what stresses us and what we get really excited about, and what of that is rational, and a lot of it is quite frankly very irrational, but having a process by which that becomes obvious, something that you see, can articulate, etc., allows you to do something about it. Yeah. So from feeling helpless, you get agency. You can do something about it. The second thing that I would like to say is, in times of ambiguity, team trumps individual anytime. And given that we're in this room, also through the lens of diversity, for me that is one of the most compelling reasons for why diverse teams are so much better in times of unprecedented change, ambiguity, and where we just don't know what the solution and the answers are. So the more any team in our company, for instance, is faced with things that are not very predictable, the more important it is that you bring together people who have different backgrounds, thoughts, who disagree with each other, but who will chip together to find the best solution for something. So for me, that is important. There are things that we have to deal with ourselves because we are either stressed or energized, but then there is a whole new notion of team that I think is going to be critical going forward.
And I like that perspective that it always starts with yourself, kind of, right? Reflecting your own trigger points, right? Because if you don't do that, nobody else can tell you, right? I think that's a very important thing for the future. But asking, you want to add something? Or I have one last question.
Just one quick thought, because you said in the beginning we tend to agree in almost everything, and I think that's totally true.
A point of disagreement.
But maybe one point where I want to challenge our shared view, and it's a message to all students from schools and the universities. We tend to agree that it's brave to jump into a new field. We tend to agree that it's brave to jump into unknown territory. I think the opposite is the case. I studied computer science in the 1980s, where most of you were not even born. We had AI as a mandatory, obligatory course. It was the most boring one you could ever have, and it died down later. But I learned one thing. I was lucky to be in computer science, while other people I was at school with decided for history, ancient history, philosophy, theology, really cool. They are the brave ones, because they meet professors and teachers who are always far ahead, because the long experience and the deep knowledge of the field is an advantage. While in computer science, in digitization, in AI, in sustainability, in creativity, the long experience might not be an advantage. So I enjoy a lot teaching in innovation and in digitization, where usually my students are ahead. And that makes it more interesting. So I would say the brave ones, please go for the subjects where all your professors are 100 years ahead of you. But the curious ones, go for the crazy fields where you have a quick chance to constantly challenge your teachers, your professors, and work with them in order to also educate them. So maybe just one thought.
Probably that's the self-selection bias, right? That the most curious people anyway go for computer science, the new stuff. But thanks for the perspective, and I think that rounds it up kind of beautifully, in my point of view at least. I don't think it was boring, but we have still a little bit time left, even though we're a little bit over our schedule, for questions in the room. So if there's anybody bold enough to ask a question, raise your hand. And there's someone with a microphone. Here's the lady sitting here in the front. Probably until you get the microphone, I have a question online, probably a quick one. For Judith, what is your personal trick to stay up to skill and practice lifelong learning?
Oh gosh, my sustainability job for sure, because that is such a fast-moving field where both the breadth and the depth is starting to develop so quickly that I really put in quite a bit of time to just stay up to speed. So that is certainly one that keeps me quite busy up here. Yeah.
Can imagine that. So another quick question from your side.
Yes. First of all, I want to say thank you for the presentation. It really hit home for me, and it was genuinely interesting. I actually have 2 questions, but my first one is actually very complex.
Don't have too much time left.
Yeah, I'll be very quick.
Must be for the 2 professors.
I'm already proud of you because my students should ask questions. I love that.
No, please go ahead.
The first question is, we talked about innovations and be innovative changes and everything, but how can we implement that when we are finding in a field where there is little to no room for decision making? Because mostly there's a job description, you get hired, you do exactly what the description tells you, and after 10 years, you are going to be replaced with the people who already mastered what's coming. And my question is, when you are in a field where there is no room for change or where you can't make decisions to improve your working space, what are the steps to take, or what is supposed to be done?
You want to answer, please?
Maybe very simple answer. Together with a co-student of mine during our studies, we decided to always make ourselves redundant if a job is boring. So if you end up in a job that is boring, then really work hard on making yourself redundant, because then you move up or left or right in more exciting fields, and the organization, this job gets still done because you found a solution to automate, digitize, outsource, whatever. So find a smart solution to your problem.
That would be nice. One more question from your side?
Yeah. The second question is, particularly for Mrs. Weiß, what is to be done when you become victim of the beginner's mentality? And of course, it sounds a little bit personal, but sometimes you're in a space where you do not believe that you could actually reach the perfection stage, where you are so oppressed or you feel so scared to improve in the perfection case because you do not feel empowered enough, and you become victim with a beginner's mentality and you stay in your lane, basically. So,
I don't know whether I get your question right, but if you work in an environment where you are punished for aiming for a beginner's mindset, where you cannot learn every day, move, change job. And when I was a graduate from university myself, I had 3 criteria for choosing a job. I earn a lot, I learn a lot, I have fun a lot. So strive for that.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for your questions. Anybody else in the room? Over to you.
So thank you very much. I have a question. You talk a lot about skill security and job security. For me, job security is more like an economic security. And you also mentioned there's a storm happening. So how can I be sure in my skills while still having to look out for the future? Maybe I want to buy a home, all the rising costs. I think it's very difficult to really focus on my skills, which may not translate into economic security. Do you have any tips? How can I be sure that everything will work out in the end?
Shall I make a start? Do you want to start?
Yeah, I mean, at the moment we have labor shortage, so actually you're in a very good negotiation position towards employers. Judith, I don't know whether you disagree, but I think you are in a very good position. And make sure you learn the skills which are totally relevant in the present and in the future. And then it's not either or, it's both. Then you have skill security, and skill security leads to job security.
I think it's easier said than done, but I think everyone gets what you mean.
That's true. But it's tough to explain in a quick quick answer. One more question in the room? Yes. Until you get the microphone, I have one question online for you guys. I don't know if I get that completely right, but I just read it out loud. In the future, will the people in Germany still accept leaders? Probably, I don't know, because of the change of how it is done right now, leading. And which skills will be most important, especially for women? So accepting leaders, is that changing? Do we not want any leaders anymore? Probably the first part of the question. Is that changing? Do you see any change regarding that?
Let me try to answer the question from a certain angle. One is, I think it's time to get rid of the notion that leadership just happens one level up. Yeah? So I think we need to assume responsibility for how we show up ourselves. And for me, that is leadership as well. It's a question of where do I choose to make impact? And that for me is actually the most important definition of leadership versus it's a position in an org chart. And that position is always somewhere there, because it means that I'm actually putting myself down, victimizing myself, and I'm also producing excuses for myself why I'm not acting on certain things. So that's the first thing. The second thing, and that I think goes with the entire notion of the beginner's mindset or growth mindset, is in the past we might have looked at leaders to the ones having all the answers, where very clearly that is, a very antiquated way of looking at the world, particularly as it stands today. What we can do is ask the right questions, coach, we can stay close. But at the end of the day, if the five of us that ran Siemens had more wisdom than everybody else, we'd be dead by Friday, right? Because we would have to do everybody's job. So I think there's so much wisdom in the organization that it's much more about how do you actually bring that to life and how do you bring that to fruition. And then as a leader to know when to step in or not. There is another question or another debate, but that's an entirely different one that's going on, is are people still putting up their hand for people management jobs? Or are a lot of the people in the younger generation actually saying, quite honestly, I'm not sure I want that. But that's an entirely different ballpark.
Yeah, I liked especially what you were saying. I sometimes call it shared leadership, right? So I think everybody in the team, no matter if you're like a leader per position, everybody can lead in a situation, right? If you take the lead for whatever you do in that situation, you're the leader. And I think that's exactly what you were saying. I love that. One more last question from your side.
Yeah, thank you. So my question is about change and innovation, and you were talking a lot about it. And my question is, because from what I've experienced, there are a lot of people that are afraid of change and of innovation. Also thinking of people that only go to work because they want to earn their money. But how do you deal with those people when it comes to change and to innovation? And it will certainly come to change, as you all said. Yeah, that's my question.
Anybody who wants to take it, please.
You need to take those. Mostly it's people have the fear that change will lead to something which they cannot cope with. So you have to understand the fears, you have to understand what's holding them back, and you have to enable them and support them to overcome their fears or whatever is holding them back. And, give them two things: understand the why you need to change, and then teach them how they can handle the change and manage the change, drive the change to something better. But you have to take it seriously. And of course, a lot of people in the workforce are afraid because they have done certain tasks for many, many years. They've done that successfully, and now they understand, a new technology like AI is coming up. We need to do things differently in the future. Talk to them, understand what's holding them back, and enable them to manage the change.
I think it's about lowering the barriers as well. As I said earlier, we're trying, for instance, with our shop floor people to bring learning to them rather than them having to go somewhere, because that's already a barrier. We invested in in adult apprentices. So we basically had people who put up their hand to do an apprenticeship at the age of 45, 50. They were able to apply for that. And the very first weeks we actually helped them to get back into the groove of learning and to find psychological safety with each other. So I think also where you can actually take a group of people with you always helps, because then that reinforces. And one of the things that has also worked really well for us in Siemens is really do this in conjunction with Works Council members as well, no? Because they're a trusted entity as well. So we're trying to mobilize together against that, just to again reduce barriers around that.
You want to add?
I think it's a great examples. I also tend to feel that in organizations we often look at people and judge them from the tasks they do. And if you look at the whole person, you then suddenly notice that somebody might look very in a repetitive job, very risk avoiding and so on, but at home they do adventure trips during their holidays, they build houses, whatever. And on the other hand side, you have innovators and leaders who would never dare to order anything that pizza salami at the Italian restaurant and always go back to the same place. So look at the whole person and try to always counterbalance to the aspect that is so dominant, like repetitive job.
Right. So looking at the time, we're a little bit over time, so we need to wrap it up now. I'm sorry for that. I think we could talk for hours and forever, but just, I don't know, if you want to have one last quick takeaway for everybody sitting in the room and online, you want to share as just one last thing you want to say. Anybody want to start?
Well, I think in my talk I said FAU is only #1 innovator because the whole innovation ecosystems works together and contributes. And we see that when the startups at Zollhof have teams from all different universities and universities of applied sciences in the region, and companies work together, the big ones support the small ones. I think if everyone comes together and wants to drive this innovation ecosystem, that makes us better, and that would help us to reach even beyond #4. And we should aim for that.
So it's all about ecosystems.
Yes.
You want to add something? Your perspective.
I would like to emphasize that learning is a shared responsibility. We as professors, we give our best that we teach you the right skills, but you need to be willing and intrinsically motivated to learn the right skills at the right time. So get into action and get self-responsible for learning.
Thank you. Last but not least, Judith.
I'll finish with my daughter's baptismal quote. Everything is possible to those who believe. And so I want to leave you with the notion of possibility.
Thank you very much. I love that. So thank you very much, Judith, Yasmin, Kathrin. Just one quick hint, there are more events like that. Check it out. But first of all, thank you for coming today, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the people online joining us today. And now you're invited to have a drink or a snack outside, and hopefully some time, I don't know if you have to rush or you stay, but get in touch, ask about Nizza and the best Aperol Spritz place.
The best beaches.
Yeah.
Okay, here it is. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you. Thank you. Pleasure. Thank you.
Enough time for networking. So the bus is leaving at 2:45, not at 2:30, so that you have enough time for getting something to eat and to network. 2:45, okay?